Heat Check. Basketball, basketball, college. Basketball, basketball, college. Oh, that time already? Whoa.
Welcome in to another episode of the Heat Check Hangout, your number one source for all things basketball, basketball, college. I'm your host, Brian Ralph, joined as always by my co-hosts, Connor Hope and Riley Davis. We're continuing our conference tournament preview series with a look at the Big Ten, which might be the craziest and wackiest conference tournament of all, so we had to bring in good friends Carter Elliott and Greg Waddell of Sleepers Media, Field of 68, College Hoops to Go. Guys, thanks for joining.
Of course. Happy to be here, guys. What a week, and what a horrible conference we get to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I was just saying, thanks for having me, but also thanks for using like those words, like it could be crazy, it could be wild and wacky, because those are like some positive adjectives to describe what the hell might actually happen in Chicago, because it's going to get nasty in my eyes, but we can talk about it.
That's how we're going to pitch it on BTN Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as just upsets galore happen because nobody's any good.
Are y'all going to be in Chicago? Are y'all going to be in Chicago covering it?
We are, yes. Somehow we have not gotten enough of all of this. We'll be there.
Well, I think one of the biggest storylines, if not the biggest storyline, is the amount of teams that are on the bubble that need significant wins early on in this tournament or are going to be having a sweaty selection Sunday. Let's put it that way. Carter, I'll start with you because there's 4 or 5 teams that probably need to pick up at least one win. I think in this to feel safe on Selection Sunday. So to you, which of those bubble teams is in the most precarious position or can help themselves the most with their first round matchup?
You know, I don't know if this is the team that can necessarily help themselves the most, but this is kind of the one that I want to help. I want them to help themselves. I'm pulling for them, and I think it's Penn State. I think Penn State in that first game, they have a chance to beat an Illinois team with, I mean, who knows what that team is going to do. I mean, they had the talent. We've seen it this year. They went toe-to-toe just a day ago. Actually, me and Greg saw it in person in Mackey and came back down about 20 points and had chances to win that game in Mackey, which is not easy to do. And you were able to see kind of how good that Illinois team could be. And I just want to see Jalen Pickett in the tournament so bad. I really do. Yes. Because I think he could be a special player on the big stage. And I think, you know what, I don't know COVID years or anything like that, but this is maybe his last shot. Who really knows nowadays? But that Penn State team, they have a system, they have talent, and they're going to have a chance to play an Illinois team, which is beatable, which they already beat this year pretty handedly. And then the next game, they got a game against Northwestern, who we love, but at the same time, that's a very winnable game.
Greg, same question to you. Who are you looking at that you'd like to make a run?
Cart hit one of my favorites is Penn State. Also, what a performance by Cart right now. Talk about being your best in March. I mean, look at the kid right now. So I agree with his sentiments on Jalen Pickett for sure. He's just a superstar dude, right? Like nobody wants to see him in the NCAA tournament because that's the team that if they just shoot 50% from three, you're going to lose that game with the style they play with Seth Lundy, with all the shooters around him. I kind of feel bad for Penn State because I don't think they're going to beat Illinois. I think that's actually one of the worst draws for them. Illinois is a very switchable defense. Like when they don't play Dane Danger, they can play Coleman Hawkins at the 5 and just have a bunch of perimeter guys chase all these shooters. And Illinois is playing pretty good right now, even though they got down big to Purdue. Like I think they've actually turned some of their best basketball out in the last couple of weeks. So I'd feel a lot more confident in Penn State as a team that can make a run if they had a different draw. The team that I've got my eye on, honestly, it's going to sound a little crazy, but could Nebraska do some things here? Like they're going to beat Minnesota. Nobody cares about Minnesota. Keisei Tominaga's been really, really good, even though it's just like funny. It sounds like a joke to say that. He's averaging like 22 a game over the last month. And they've coincidentally been winning a bunch of games against desperate Big Ten teams that need the Nebraska win to punch their ticket. I don't think Maryland's very good outside of their home arena. And as far as I know, this tournament's not being played in their home arena. So, like, if Nebraska wins their first 2, all of a sudden it's gravy at that point, and I wouldn't be shocked if anything happens from there.
If they got there, I think the next matchup is against Indiana, and Indiana has they always deliver, right? Nothing crazy ever happens with Indiana.
I've never seen Indiana not deliver.
No. Always.
Not a Trace Jackson Davis led team.
Connor, looking at the bracket, which bubble team do you think needs to help themselves the most?
Who I think should need to help themselves the most is Wisconsin. Doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like bracketologists think the committee is going to give them a little bit more respect than I personally think they deserve. And I'm cheering for Ohio State to do some things to Wisconsin that forces them off the bubble. And Ohio State can do it. Look, they've been bad in Big Ten play, but you look at their last 4 games, they played to within 4 of Penn State. They played to within 6 of Michigan State, and they beat both Illinois and Maryland. So Ohio State over the last 2 weeks has been pretty decent. And I know Riley could talk for days about how Wisconsin shouldn't be in the tournament, and it would be a gross first 4 game, whichever game Wisconsin's in. But I think they need to beat Ohio State to feel even comfortable on the bubble, and probably need to beat Iowa to lock themselves in. But I agree. I think Penn State or Michigan probably needs to do the most to get themselves into the tournament after the way their season ended. But Penn State, I think, has the clearest path to helping themselves get in.
Riley, do you want to take the time to talk about Wisconsin right now?
I legitimately hate watching this team play basketball. I can't stand them. I want the entire program launched into the sun. I've hated them since they blew like a lead in the national championship in 2015 because Sam Decker shrunk in the moment and gave Duke a national title. I hated them when Brad Davison ended my Hall of Fame coach's career. And I hated them when they were ahead of UNC for the last 4 in. And then I hated them even more when I watched Max Klesmit banking in 3-pointers against Michigan, trying to get themselves off the bubble. Thank you, Hunter Dickinson, for hitting that buzzer beater to save us from that. I can't stand how slow they play. I can't stand how pale they are. I don't want any part of Wisconsin anywhere near the field of 68.
Wisconsin is the Big Ten personified, right? Big Ten has the slowest tempo of any conference.
Don't project that on our conference. That's a little rude. Come on now. That's a little bit rude. I know what you're going for, but come on now. That's a little bit.
I'll refrain. Just look at the Big Ten's numbers and look at Wisconsin's numbers as it relates to both Big Ten within all 32 conferences and Wisconsin within the Big Ten. And you will understand what I'm saying and what Carter is not wanting me to expose.
Can't do it.
Well, we've already talked about some of these matchups. Carter, you brought up Penn State, Illinois. Is that the matchup or potential matchup that intrigues you the most? Because to me, both some of the games we have set, and then looking down the road, if chalk holds, there's going to be some games that are ugly, but some that will be fun to watch. So is there a matchup or potential matchup down the road that you're really excited to see or potentially see?
To be honest, this might come as a surprise to some, but I actually am intrigued by the contest that could be Michigan versus Purdue, with Michigan actually on their last life, because I don't know how. I know that the line's going to come out. I think I saw it was predicted as like -3 for Rutgers in that first game. I don't know what person has watched Rutgers over the past couple of weeks, but that team is not good, like, at all. Like, I don't want to be like too rude, but I am going to be rude. They're bad, and it's not a joke how bad they are. They're not playing this game at Jersey Mike's or the Rack. Michigan is a team that needs that game. I think it's a pretty winnable game for them. So then that sets up a matchup with Purdue, who Purdue really doesn't have anything to play for, unless I'm wrong necessarily. I mean, you guys can correct me on that, but they don't really have much to. Are they gonna lose a 1 seed if they lose in the first game?
Depends what happens with like UCLA and Arizona, or if Texas wins the Big 12.
That changes it a little bit, but it's still at the same time, like watching Michigan on their last life, basically knowing they have to beat that Purdue team. I think that they can beat that Purdue team. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, Greg knows that they might end up 12 late in the second half against Purdue and somehow lose on a game winner to Ethan Morton. But, I'm intrigued to see what Michigan does kind of on their last life.
That would hurt. I just want to say, like, envisioning an Ethan Morton world where he stomps me out of the tournament, that would be horrible. Yeah, no, like, I am with you on that being a potential matchup. I also just want to throw out there that, to your point about Rutgers being horrible, Michigan just, like, waltzed into Jersey Mike's 2 weeks ago and beat them by double digits. And Michigan played pretty horrible in that game and won that game by double digits. I think Rutgers is pretty much cooked. So I would probably pick any team from this conference other than Minnesota to beat Rutgers relatively comfortably right now. So that's a break for Michigan, and it's a break that it actually is going to count as a quad one win if they beat Rutgers on a neutral right now. The thing is, like, I would normally complain about the draw for my team. Oh, shit, they got the one good team in this conference, right? Michigan desperately needs that right now. Like, if anything, this is a perfect draw for the Wolverines. It's just make or break. They have to actually not blow a lead for the first time in like 15 games. So we'll see. I do think Purdue will show up. I think Purdue will play well, but also Michigan has a pretty good history against Purdue in the Matt Painter era in this tournament. So we got to keep an eye on that for sure if they get there. The matchup I would be excited about, flipping this on to Carter's team, Michigan State, Iowa. I mean, we just saw the game of the year in college basketball like 10 days ago there. And I don't think enough people are talking about how good Michigan State is, and that's not me just like trying to suck up to all the people who told me to kill myself in my Twitter mentions yesterday. They actually have been awesome. They've won 4 of their last 6 games, Cart, and the 2 losses they outplayed the team that beat them for 90% of the game. Like, they were the much better team against Iowa until the meltdown, and they were the better team against Michigan for the majority of that really high emotion game. They're shooting above 50% from 3 in the last 2 weeks, and it's everybody. Like, Joey Hauser, Jaden Akins, and Tyson Walker are all 45% shooters from 3, not just 40% shooters from 3 on high volume this year. And I feel like, for whatever reason, no one is really mentioning that. Like, that's a formula that works in March when you have great shooters and great veteran guard play. Obviously, the center spot's horrible, but I still think they can win. I still think they can make noise. So I would look forward to that game for sure if Iowa can just hold serve. And then I actually like the Spartans to make a run. I don't know if we're doing predictions later in the show, but I think they can go pretty far in this tournament.
We can tease that. And this month is named after Tom Izzo, as we are reminded every year, for better or for worse.
Put that to bed. That's coming from a Michigan State fan. There's nothing worse. I'm telling y'all, there's nothing worse in this world than when I lose a game at Iowa with a flurry of 3-pointers with a minute left, and I'm in hell. I'm standing outside, and someone says to me, "Don't worry, it's not March yet." It makes me want to pull my hair out. I can't stand it. Retire, Mr. Lawrence, please.
College basketball is the best.
Oh,
Connor, we want to look at some individuals and some players that could really shape this tournament. Who is somebody or a couple guys you're looking at that could have that impact?
Well, first off, I'm going to go same answer for Purdue that I went with Arizona in our Pac-12 preview, which is just that backcourt. Like, that backcourt,
yes.
If it shows up and it performs, Purdue is far and away the best team in the Big Ten. If the freshmen struggle, the only backup options they have are a broken Brandon Newman and David Jenkins, who everyone knows I despise with a passion. So that, to me, is the X factor in this. Can the freshmen handle the pressure that's inevitably going to be thrown at them in every single game that they play? Because when they get pressed, they fold. And so I'm not, as a brother of a Purdue grad, I'm not looking forward to this tournament, because I think what we've seen over the last few weeks is that the secret is out on how to beat this Purdue team. It's the secret that was a pretty open secret. If you listen to this podcast, I harped on it even when they were winning all those games. Just wait until they get pressed. And that's what's been happening. So that's one player. The other one that I just want to touch on, and I like the Michigan State call out, is Tyson Walker. If he's on one, it could carry Michigan State to a win in any game they play. So if you're looking for one player, I mean, Jalen Pickett could lead Penn State, but I think the pieces around Tyson Walker are a little bit better, to the point where Tyson Walker can just go on a rampage through the Big Ten tournament if he's on and cut down the nets. So those would be the two for me, the two X factors: Tyson Walker for Michigan State, and then that backcourt of Purdue.
Riley, who are you looking at?
I got to go with Doug McDaniel. I like this Michigan team a lot to make a run. I know, Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Michigan is good. I think they've been playing really well. I know they're blowing leads, but every time I watch them play, I'm impressed by McDaniel's shot making. I'm impressed by how much Kobe Buffkin has improved. I'm impressed that they can make the two big thing work with either Hunter and Cheddar or Hunter and Terrace Reed. So, I mean, they're going to have to get over the hump and win one of these close games eventually. Why not make it now? I'm also curious. I know, like, Doug coming in was kind of seen as this defensive dynamo, and that's why I've been so impressed by his ability to just, like, shoot off the bounce and everything. But, Greg, how's his defense been? Like, has he lived up to the billing on that end? Because that's where I haven't necessarily watched as closely.
You know, not really, to be honest with you. I love Dog McSpaniel. He's one of my favorite Michigan Wolverines ever. He's going to be an all-timer guy off of, like, just aesthetic and want to alone. The problem is, I think that's what his defensive reputation was built off of, honestly, was, like, he's a guy that plays hard and he gets up in your shit in the high school level, and that was enough. At the college level, he is tiny, as Carter notes.
It's the year of the
college
short
level,
king.
like, you have to have.
You're right.
Yeah, no comment there. He has to have, like, knowledge and understanding of concepts and on the fly. Like Michigan switches defenses a lot. They go zone. Honestly, the Indiana game, they had a 3-point lead with 45 seconds left, and Doug went under a screen, and Jalen Hood-Schifino buries the three, and then they lose the game. Like, he has a lot more potential there than he has put into action as far as winning basketball goes, which is the problem with the entire Michigan team. It's like all these dudes are talented, or not all of them. Terrence Williams is on the team, but most of these dudes are talented, and they just can't string that together. They're in every single game. Like, 12 of their 14 losses this year have been by 6 points or less. And here they are on the wrong side of the bubble, which is insanity.
I would like to point out that Greg should tie Riley to a chair and make him watch every Michigan game. If every time he watches Michigan play, he's impressed by Doug McDaniel's shot making.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me just say, like, over the last week, over like the last week or two, and this goes. I know, Greg, you've said that they were playing a lot better without Jet Howard in there, because it seems like the ball's moving. Like, Doug has come up with some big shots. I don't know. I like what I've seen from Michigan over the last 2 weeks. I'll add that. I'll couch that with that.
Yeah,
not going back.
They have Jet. They have Jet Howard back, which they're 0-2 since he came back. So, like, I don't know, man. It's not all that easy. Jet's obviously super talented, but there is a very clear, like, guys roll their eyes and walk back on defense when Jet airballs a contested 17-footer, and Jet doesn't play any defense himself. And then when you just put a competent guy who everybody seems to like in Joey Baker in his role, it didn't matter if he didn't make 4 threes a game, because Joey at least, like, tried hard and high-fived people. So, I don't know. This team pretty clearly doesn't like each other, and they could still beat Purdue because Michigan, like, metrically has been the second best team in this conference. It's just that metrics don't matter as much as wins and losses, and this team has zero clue how to win a basketball game when there's 4 minutes left.
Few things made me laugh harder. I forget who they were playing, but Joey Baker had a wide open three to tie the game in forced overtime or a second overtime, and missed the net by like 5 feet to the left.
Yeah, that was Illinois.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to some picks, and Greg, you mentioned that Michigan has the potential to make a run. Who do you like as a dark horse in this?
You know, I don't know that it's fair to call this team a dark horse given their seed, but this is the problem with the Big Ten tournament to me, is like teams that would be my prototypical dark horses that are like half a game out of 9th place in this conference are now the 2 seed and have a double bye. I like Northwestern. Like, I think this team is a historical type Cinderella team. They've never done anything in March. They won a lot of games this year away from home. Like, they went to almost every team in this conference on the road and came out with a winning record on the road. Like, nobody else in this conference has been able to do that. Boo Booey's legitimately good. I don't think anybody realizes that. That kind of started as like a joke from us and like a cult hero thing, but he's legitimately awesome. Like he's going to score 18 to 25 points a game and get wherever he wants on the floor. And that includes all three levels. He gets to the line a ton. So I don't know. You mix like him with how well Chase Audige is playing defensively right now. And it's kind of like the Ewing theory. Like we shipped off Pete Nance to Riley's CBI team. We shipped off Ryan Young to Duke. And all of a sudden they're good because they just have role players who have no ego whatsoever. I like the makeup of the group a lot. And like I said, if they were like a 10 seed in this tournament, they would be my dark horse. But they're the 2 seed. So I don't know if that counts.
We'll count it. Anybody but Purdue can technically be a dark horse in this. Carter, who would be your dark horse selection?
You know what? Greg kind of took mine with Northwestern, but they're a 2 seed, so I don't feel like doing that. So I'm going to go with Illinois. I'm going to go, since we are Sleepers Media and we do somewhat like to talk about the Illini. I'm actually going to go with this Illinois team because I like talent-wise, I'm probably taking them over a lot of the teams in the Big Ten. They might not have like the top like National Player of the Year like Edey or National Player of the Year candidate like Trace Jackson Davis, but like throughout this whole roster, you got Terrence Shannon, you know, the guy who drinks a lot of Monsters, and Mayer. You got all these guys who I think can get it done. And it would be very Illinois of this team to have like the up and downs of the season, this roller coaster. And I was telling Greg this earlier, actually, and putting it together, going on a run, winning the Big Ten tournament, feeling really good, start talking about positionless basketball, Coleman Hawkins shooting up draft boards, and then they go out in the first weekend. Like that would be Illinois pastime. That's what they are. It's their history. It's their culture. So I could really see them playing well during this Big Ten tournament and making a run. And they got winnable games. Like it's crazy. I hate disrespecting Northwestern, but they win the game against Penn State, and next they get the 2 seed, and it's Northwestern. Like that's a very winnable basketball game.
Riley, who are you looking at? Bottom half of the bracket.
I mean, I also have my eye on Northwestern, even though they're the 2 seed. And I mean, Greg already hit on just the way that Boo Booey's played. I also got to give a shout out to Brooks Barnheiser because this dude is somehow shooting 33% on the year, but has made 48% of his triples since February 2nd. I'm like, how? I didn't watch Northwestern until February because it was just like, oh yeah, this is, you know, they gave Auburn like a game that was 43-42. It's like, it's kind of cute that they're hanging around in the top 50 of metrics, but then I realized when they beat Purdue, like this team is actually good. Probably the best defensive performance I've seen on Edey this whole season was there was 3 possessions down the stretch with 3 straight turnovers for Edey. Like they were just completely harassing him. And so I like the floor with that defense. I think if you get Bowie can take over the game at any time, and if Barnheiser is making threes, like they got a good chance to win this thing. Oh, and maybe even a little Northwestern faithful comes out to Chicago. A little Kevin Sweeney and his Buzz from Home Alone Goonies joining them as well. Like, can we get a little Northwestern, some Northwestern rowdies out there?
I want to call this now when Northwestern plays Illinois on Friday at 5:30 p.m. Central in the quarterfinals. That's the official battle for Chicago's Big Ten team. Because Northwestern has that all over their court. And like we went there. Evanston is not Chicago. Like not even close. So whoever wins that game can officially be Chicago's Big Ten team.
I think that's fair. We can dub it that. Connor, before we move on to champ picks, who's your dark horse?
I mentioned it. I don't think they can win it. But I like Ohio State's path to make a little bit of a run in this tournament. If you look at the last 2 weeks, they're playing much better offensively. Torvik, I think, over the last 2 weeks, so the last 5 games, has them as a top 25 offense in the country. Defense still sucks, but so does Iowa's. Wisconsin's defense is good, but they can't score. So you're looking at that path over the first 2 games for Ohio State. It's very winnable for the 13 seed. And once you gain that momentum, you're facing a Michigan State team that hasn't played yet in Chicago. So we'll see how they perform against Wisconsin, against Iowa. Obviously, the Iowa games, both of them between the two, they split them, but they were both blowouts, 16 and 17 points. So I like the way Ohio State's playing offensively. over the last few weeks. And I think as far as a 13 seeds path goes, it's relatively manageable.
My dark horse and my champion pick are the same, and it kind of goes off what you talked about, Carter. I'm going with Illinois winning the whole thing, simply because I don't really trust any team in this conference to win 3 or 4 games in a row. But Illinois, to me, is a team that has the highest ceiling because of the versatility they have. We talked about the switchability on defense. They have a number of different guys that can take over a game offensively, and you don't need all of them to do it every single game, but you have one game could be Terrence Shannon's, one game could be Matthew Myers, one game could be Coleman Hawkins. They have more options like that, I think, than anybody else, at least more high-end options than anybody else in the conference. I think it is somewhat of a crapshoot, but I'm going to go with them for that reason. I hate they're playing Penn State in the first round. I really want Penn State to make the NCAA tournament because I think their shooting and Jalen Pickett makes them a major problem for somebody. That's not Illinois. But so Illinois, for me, I also think Nebraska gets to where they play Indiana in the quarters, and that gets a little sweaty. I'll do a coin flip there, but to me, that's Illinois is my champ pick. Bold prediction, them winning, and Nebraska making a little bit of a run. Carter, who do you have winning it all?
Oh, it's tough. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just be the homer here because I feel good about my team. Everyone on the floor shooting over 40% from 3. I'm gonna go with the Michigan State Spartans. I think they can get it done. If they, all right, I don't know what you're laughing at. Make the tournament first, Gregory. I think that this team can actually shoot their way to a Big Ten title. They truly can, and I think it's been kind of a switch these last couple of weeks. Like to start the year, it was we had to keep teams in the 60s, and we were winning those games. If teams got like in the high 60, 70 range, we were losing those basketball games. Now we've shown the ability that we can put up like 80 points a game. We can score the basketball, and guys are shooting over 40% from 3, and guys are shooting very well. So as long as A.J. Hoggard is an A.J. Hoggard, which he probably will, I think that this Michigan State team can actually win the Big Ten title.
Greg?
Oh, man, how do I go about this? First of all, Cart, I think that's actually a genuinely good pick. I just am laughing that it's you making it because it's such a Spartan rivals pick.
I really think it's Illinois though, but I just talked about that for about 10 minutes, so I was like, let me switch it.
Okay. I'm going to pick Michigan State actually, and that's not a troll. I like their backcourt if they play Purdue. Like if that's the matchup in the semis, I think the way Michigan State is playing right now, and they can go small ball. Who knows how they would do that with Edey? Like Edey would eat in that game. He will even if Madi Sissoko's in the game. But like right now, they're playing a lot of Hauser and Hall together at the 4 and 5. Everybody's shooting the lights out. And A.J. Hoggard and Tyson Walker are, for lack of a better word, some MFers. I don't know how much I can swear on this.
It's fine.
They played Purdue. They played Purdue once this year, and it was a 2-point game down the stretch. And if those two get an opportunity to get under Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith's skin in this setting, they will make their life hell for 40 minutes. So I like Michigan State to come out of that side of the bracket as long as they do get Purdue in that matchup. If y'all catch the Wolverines with their season on the line, good luck. Terrace Reed might put Joey Hauser in a locker again. But I'll pick Michigan State to win the entire thing because I think it's Michigan State and like I hate the whole bottom half of this bracket. Like Northwestern's probably actually the best team in it. Like it's just gross.
If I see Wisconsin lift the trophy, I'm done with college basketball. I promise you. I will not allow Max Klesman and Carter Gilmore to touch my beloved Big Ten tournament trophy. I will be finished. Let that be known.
Brian, there's also a better chance of Matthew Meyer like disappearing for 17 hours and then coming to the game like at halftime, and everybody asks like, "Yo, where were you?" And he's like, "Oh, I got hurt indoor skydiving. My bad." And everyone's just like what? There's a much better chance that happens to Illinois.
He'd probably do that though, and then score 20 in the second half, and it'd be fine.
Exactly, it's true.
You know, Riley, who's your championship pick? Is Wisconsin going all the way?
Definitely not. I was leaning Indiana coming into this, just like watching, just because I think there's not really anybody who can guard Trace Jackson Davis. he makes like, it's not just his scoring, his defense. It's like he literally makes 3 or 4 absurd passes a game that it entices me. It makes me think like there's no way this team is losing. And just Jalen Hood-Schifino, we've seen him show out on the biggest stages, like that 35 piece you put up on Purdue. But no, I mean, they're kind of convincing me for the Spartan Dogs, thinking that they'll come out. But I guess I'll stick with Indiana just to mix it up a little bit.
Connor?
I picked them when we made our picks for Heat Check. I'm going with Michigan State. I like shot-making teams. They can make threes.
Everybody's on Michigan State. That's not a good
Connor,
thing.
I'm going to let you go, but this sucks. We're losing the Iowa first game. It's okay.
If they get a lead, they have the free throw making capabilities to preserve it. So I think they have the clearest, for me, route out of that quarterfinals. I don't like the matchup of Purdue against Michigan. I don't really like the matchup Northwestern has against Illinois, or Penn State for that matter. Indiana should get out of the quarters, but who knows? So, yeah, my pick's Michigan State to win it. I think they end up playing Ohio State in that quarterfinals matchup. That's my bold prediction. I think Ohio State does pull off two quick ones against an Iowa team that can't defend and a Wisconsin team that can't play basketball.
Bryce Sensabaugh, baby.
That'll do it for this episode of the Heat Check Hangout. Your number one source for all things basketball college. Thanks to Carter and Greg for joining us. It was great having you guys talk some Big Ten hoops. Our co-host Connor Hope, Riley Davis, I'm Brian Ralph. We'll talk to you guys again next time as we continue our conference tournament preview series.
Basketball college. Basketball college. Oh, is that time already? Whoa, basketball college. Come on. Basketball college. Oh. Basketball college. Whoa, basketball college.